Welcome to Life Stories. What happens when the person you trust the most turns out to be your greatest betrayal? Emma thought she had found love, a true partnership, and a future filled with happiness. But behind the scenes, her husband, Ryan, was living a double life, one that would ultimately destroy everything they built together. From heartbreak to revenge, from betrayal to redemption. This is a story of resilience, strength, and a fresh start. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey and discover how Emma turned her greatest loss into her most powerful victory. I still remember the night my world cracked open like a porcelain cup slipping from trembling hands. The phone rang in the middle of the night while I was in a hotel room, miles away on a business trip. It was Ryan. His voice was calm, almost too calm, like someone delivering a rehearsed speech. "Emma, I want a divorce." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind struggled to process his words. But deep down, I wasn't entirely surprised. Something inside me had always feared this moment might come. Still, hearing it out loud, hearing the finality in his tone, was like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean? Can you explain this properly?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. But my hands had started shaking. Ryan let out a short, bitter laugh. "You probably haven't noticed, but I have someone else. She's younger and prettier than you. We even have a child together. I want you to divorce me so I can be with them." For a moment, silence stretched between us like a vast, endless void. I felt numb. He continued, his voice gaining confidence as if he were convincing himself. "I've already sold the house and the car." He paused, waiting for my reaction. Perhaps he expected me to break down, to beg him to stay, to demand an explanation. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and gave him a short, simple reply. "Okay." The other end of the line fell silent. A stunned pause, followed by a faint, confused mutter. "What?" Maybe he had imagined me sobbing, pleading for him to reconsider. Maybe he had expected anger, accusations, anything but my quiet acceptance. I had been preparing for this moment for a long time, not in the sense that I had anticipated his exact words, but I had felt the gradual erosion of our marriage, the widening gap between us, the way his eyes no longer lingered on me when we sat across from each other at dinner. Love, I had learned, does not shatter in a single moment. It dissolves slowly, eroded by indifference, by unspoken resentments, by the quiet neglect that seeps into a relationship like water into cracks. A few days later, when I returned home, Ryan was waiting for me at the airport. His eyes darted nervously across the crowd, his posture tense. But before I talk about that moment, I should tell you how we got here. My name is Emma. I am 35 years old. And for most of my life, I believed in the kind of love that stands firm against the winds of time. I grew up in a regular middle-class family in Chicago. Nothing extravagant but filled with warmth. From a young age, I was drawn to languages, fascinated by the way words could bridge distances between people. Italian was my first love, then English. And by the time I reached high school, I had the chance to study abroad in Rome. That experience shaped me, fueled my ambition to work in an international company. I worked tirelessly to make that dream come true, earning a spot in a top business program. Job hunting was brutal, but after countless applications and sleepless nights, I secured a position at my second-choice international firm. My family was overjoyed, and my younger sister, always my biggest cheerleader, told me, "Emma, you're amazing. We're so proud of you. Take care and do your best." At work, I faced challenges head-on. The standards were high, the competition relentless. But I thrived. Slowly, I climbed the ranks, taking on more responsibilities. My colleagues admired my drive, often calling me a strong woman or a rising star. But beyond the polished exterior of my professional life, I had my own quiet joys. I adored collecting small trinkets. Cute things that made me smile. Plush toys lined my bedroom shelves. And when I longed for companionship, I visited cat cafes to unwind. For years, I was content. Love was never a priority. Friends married, had children, and at every wedding, I heard the same well-meaning remarks, "You should start thinking about settling down too." I laughed it off, telling myself I was too busy. The truth was, I hadn't met anyone who stirred something deep inside me. That changed one evening at yet another wedding reception. The air buzzed with laughter, the bride and groom basking in their new beginning. I found myself alone at the bar, sipping my drink when a smooth, pleasant voice interrupted my thoughts. "Are you alone? Can I sit here?" I turned to see a man around my height, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He wasn't strikingly handsome, but there was a charm in his expression, something warm and inviting. "Sure," I replied. We talked, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift within me. His name was Ryan. He worked in sales at a small company, 3 years younger than me, full of admiration for my job at an international firm. "You must be so smart to work there. I feel like you're from a different world," he had said, laughing. He was different from the men I usually met. He wasn't intimidatingly ambitious, nor was he boastful. He listened, asked questions, and made me feel seen. Before the night ended, we exchanged numbers, and soon after, we started meeting regularly. Ryan wasn't the type of man who swept me off my feet with grand gestures. Instead, he had a quiet, sincere charm. He made me laugh. He complimented me in a way that felt genuine. His income was barely a fraction of mine, but I didn't care. I wasn't looking for a provider. I wanted companionship. And in Ryan, I found someone who made me feel at ease. A year and a half into dating, he surprised me with a ring. His face was flushed with nervous excitement as he said, "I love how you're so cool and confident but also have this soft side. If you're okay with it, will you marry me?" I was caught off guard, but happiness bloomed in my chest. I smiled, taking his hand. "Thank you, Ryan. Let's take care of each other as husband and wife." At that moment, I believed in the life we would build together. I believed in the promise of love, in the quiet understanding between two people who chose to share their lives. But love, as I would later learn, is not just about choosing someone. It is about continuing to choose them, even when the initial spark fades. And somewhere along the way, Ryan had stopped choosing me. Marriage, I had always believed, was about partnership. Two people walking through life together, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. But it didn't take long for me to realize that Ryan had a very different idea of what marriage should be. We moved into a beautiful condo in Chicago, one that I had purchased with my own savings. It was spacious, modern, and had a breathtaking view of the skyline. I had chosen it with the future in mind, imagining the possibility of children, of a life built together. Ryan had enthusiastically agreed, praising my foresight. But after we settled in, something shifted. It started with small things. The dishes piling up in the sink. Laundry left undone. At first, I didn't mind. Ryan had lived with his parents before we got married, and I assumed he just needed time to adjust. "Ryan, could you wash the dishes tonight?" I asked one evening after coming home late from work. He was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He barely looked up. Yeah, I'll do it later." Later never came. The next morning, I found the sink still full, the plates crusted over with dried food. I sighed, rolling up my sleeves. This happened again, and again. One evening, I finally decided to address it. "Ryan, now that we're married, we need to share the housework. If you don't know how to do something, I can teach you." He frowned, looking genuinely confused. "Why? Isn't that your job? The words hit me harder than I expected. Excuse me? I mean, you're the wife. It just makes sense. Doesn't it? He shrugged. Besides, you're good at it. And I'm busy too. I blinked, trying to process what I was hearing. I had a demanding full-time job. Just like him, if not more demanding. I worked late, traveled frequently, and often came home exhausted. And yet, in his mind, the responsibility of maintaining our home fell entirely on me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Ryan, housework isn't about being a wife or a husband. We live here together. So we need to take care of it together. It's not fair for everything to fall on me. His expression darkened. You've changed since we got married. You're always nagging. If you're so busy and don't want to do it, why not just hire someone? I stared at him, stunned. Sure, we could afford a cleaner once in a while. But that wasn't the point. It was about respect. About effort. About carrying the weight of a shared life. Despite my frustration, I decided to be patient. I spent time teaching Ryan how to do the laundry, how to cook simple meals. He did it, but half-heartedly. His efforts so minimal that I often had to redo everything. I tried praising him, encouraging him, hoping he would improve. Instead, he started doing even less. He knew I would pick up the slack. And I did until I couldn't anymore. Ryan, I can't do this alone. I told him one evening, exhaustion heavy in my voice. I have work. I have business trips. And I need you to step up. He just sighed, shaking his head. You're always complaining. You make good money. Emma, why are you making such a big deal out of this? That was the moment I realized something. It wasn't that Ryan didn't know how to help. He simply didn't want to. I had married a man who wanted the benefits of a wife without the responsibilities of a husband. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The tension between us continued to grow. But I kept pushing forward, hoping things would change. I had worked so hard to build a stable life, to create a home where both of us could thrive. Surely, Ryan would eventually realize that marriage wasn't just about taking, it was about giving too. But I was wrong. A year after we got married, I came home from work one evening to find Ryan sitting on the couch, staring at the floor. His usual smug, easygoing demeanor was gone. His face was pale. His shoulders slumped. Ryan, what's wrong? I asked, setting my bag down. He exhaled heavily, running a hand through his hair. My company is going under. They're shutting down next month. I felt a pang of sympathy. Losing a job was never easy. I sat down beside him, placing a hand on his. I'm so sorry. Have you started looking for something new? He sighed, avoiding my gaze. Not yet. I need time. I'm stressed. Emma, I need to process this. I nodded, understanding. Losing a job could feel like losing a piece of yourself. Of course. Take a little time. But don't wait too long. You're smart. You'll find something soon. I truly believed that. But weeks passed. Then months. And Ryan did nothing. At first, I gave him space, thinking he was just adjusting. But as time went on, he became more withdrawn. His daily routine consisted of waking up late, playing video games, and barely acknowledging me when I got home from work. The house became a mess. The laundry piled up. The dishes were left in the sink for days. I was still the only one keeping our lives together, paying for everything, keeping things running. And Ryan, he acted like a man on vacation. Ryan, haven't you rested enough? I asked one evening, trying to keep my voice steady. Don't you think it's time to start looking for a new job? He didn't even look up from his game. I want to take my time and find something meaningful. Meaningful? I repeated, my patience wearing thin. Ryan, everyone wants a job they love. But we don't always have that luxury. You need to contribute. I can't support both of us forever. He finally turned to look at me, irritation flashing in his eyes. Emma, I don't want to just take the first job that comes along. My last job wasn't fulfilling. I was just being used. This time, I want to do something that matters. I clenched my fists. He had the luxury of searching for meaning because I was the one shouldering all the responsibilities. One night, out of pure frustration, I made a sarcastic remark. If you love playing video games so much, why don't you try streaming? Maybe you can make some money from it. To my shock, his eyes lit up. That's actually a great idea. You're so smart. Emma, I'll do it. At first, I thought he was joking. But the next day, he started talking about equipment, cameras, microphones, gaming PCs. And then came the inevitable request. I need a setup to start streaming. But I don't have any savings. So, can you buy it for me? I stared at him, dumbfounded. Ryan, do you even hear yourself? You've been unemployed for months. You haven't lifted a finger around the house. And now you want me to buy you gaming equipment? It's an investment, he argued. If I get popular, I can make real money from this. Just trust me. Against my better judgment, I bought him the equipment. Maybe I hoped it would motivate him. Maybe I was just tired of arguing. And to my complete surprise, it worked. Ryan became an overnight success. His easygoing personality, deep voice, and self-deprecating humor attracted thousands of viewers. His audience loved the contrast between his charming voice and his terrible gaming skills. Within months, he had a steady following, sponsorship deals, and more money than he had ever made in his life. But instead of feeling relief, I felt something else. Because as Ryan's career skyrocketed, his ego did too. And the man I had married, the man I had supported through everything, began to slip further and further away from me. Standing in my new apartment, I watched as the sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over my neatly arranged space. It was quiet, peaceful, nothing like the chaotic life I had once shared with Ryan. His downfall had been swift. After I exposed the truth about his cheating, his online persona crumbled overnight. His fans, once devoted, turned against him. His sponsors pulled out, and his income vanished. Without money or support, he was left with nothing. Even his mistress, Madison, abandoned him when she found out the child wasn't his. I had no sympathy for him. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my own life. I sold the condo we had once shared, along with the car he had driven around so carelessly. With the money, I bought a new place this time. Just for me. A fresh start. But the best part? This new apartment allowed pets. I smiled as I reached down to scratch behind the ears of my new cat. A soft, sleepy tabby curled up on my couch. For years, I had wanted one. But my life had always been too chaotic. Now, I had the freedom to finally focus on myself, to embrace the things that truly made me happy. Looking back, I didn't regret what had happened. If anything, Ryan had taught me the most valuable lesson of all: love should never be one-sided. A true partnership is built on mutual respect, trust, and effort. As for marriage, maybe one day, or maybe never. Either way, I knew I'd be just fine. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible true experiences.